for watching here for Live Impact News. Your time right now is 10:02. We're here in the 15 News Now studio. My name is Eugene Danny, and we got a packed house here right now. We have producer Sarah Calloway. We have Marta Berglund, who is going to be taking the seat here in a little bit and will be with us throughout the stream. And we have meteorologist Craig Moeller preparing us for a weekend where we could still see some snow last time I checked.
Yeah, we're still looking at a chance. There's still question as to whether or not it's going to be, something that adds up to a little something, or whether it just kind of falls and melts. So we'll see. Are you teasing? Are we ready to talk weather, or do you have some other stuff you want to talk about?
I think we are ready to go. I mean, there are things that we're monitoring that are happening right now, but I think we'll go ahead and get started with the actual forecast here in Hampton Roads, and particularly anytime we talk about those four-letter words.
All right, you take a look over my shoulder. Ta-da. So nice. Lots of sunshine out there. We'll take you to the ocean front right now with our sky view, and I think Sarah has up weather 2. Let's try to bring up maybe weather 1. Although I can tell you our wind chills are bitter cold. We've been down into the teens this morning. We are seeing wind chills now in the upper 20s, and through the afternoon we're going to be in the mid-30s as that graphic just showed you. The sky view down at the ocean front looking good. Look at some folks out walking the boardwalk. Not too bad out there right now. The wind's really not all that strong as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company. West-southwest at about 9 miles per hour. That's at Norfolk International with mostly sunny skies. Now, the temperatures have been chilly all morning. Take a look. Right now, we're in the low 30s. We're not going to warm up a tremendous amount. I do expect highs into the low 40s later today, but those feels like temperatures right now still in the lower to mid 20s. You do need to bundle up. And there's a look at that wind chill graphic we were just showing you. Temperatures will feel like they're in the mid 30s later this afternoon, back into the upper 20s to near 30 this evening. Skies are going to be sunny. It's a very straightforward forecast with the winds shifting to the southwest. When you see those arrows on the map there, that indicates the wind flow. That southwest wind is the key to tomorrow's forecast. South and southwest winds will keep temperatures a little bit milder tomorrow morning, more like mid-30s as opposed to upper 20s like we saw today. It's going to be about 10 degrees warmer across the region tomorrow morning. Look off to the west. You see there over the Piedmont up around Charlottesville, maybe a little bit of light snow up that way early Saturday. We have the inauguration tomorrow. And Eugene, again, a lot of folks may be wondering, what's the weather like for that? Travel up there today is good. If you're driving up early tomorrow morning, you're okay. But it does look like there could be a few showers. And Eugene, you know the schedule tomorrow. I know we were talking about it on the weather desk as well. The inauguration itself is around noon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so right around noon. You look 9:30 there to say 11 o'clock. Chance for a few showers out there. Temperatures around 43 there at Richmond with a few sprinkles. So you may want to take an umbrella up there with you. I do think by 12 to 12:30, most of those showers should be through the metro. I won't rule out the possibility of a shower, so don't get mad if there is one that's still lingering around the inauguration. That's why I say keep an umbrella. But if the models are correct, most of that stuff should be clearing Richmond. We have a very low risk of a sprinkle. And with southwest winds, our highs tomorrow are going to be back in the mid to upper 50s. So it will be a warmer day with partly cloudy skies. Looking good for Hampton Roads. Now let's talk about Sunday. Different story here. Clouds on the increase and rain showers in the morning on Sunday. Your temperatures there in the low 40s. So obviously a good 10 degrees above freezing. Not bad to start Sunday. Later Sunday, as the winds shift to the northwest, we've got another front coming through. That's going to bring in some colder air. And if there's enough moisture hanging back, you can see there may be some snow showers. Now, low 30s out around Ahoskie, low to mid 30s at Franklin. Temperatures mid to upper 30s, Norfolk and Chesapeake. That's at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. You'd be looking at mixed to snow there. Remember, while you have surface temperatures there, colder air aloft kind of gets pulled down with the snow. Think about it, the snowflakes literally dragging down some of that colder air from way up high in the atmosphere. So there might be enough support there to produce a little bit of snow, but it moves out Sunday evening. And then we just deal with really cold conditions early Monday. The GFS shows rain to the south, a little bit of mix across the metro, and then snow chances off to the north. And then the Euro showing a similar pattern now, rain to the south, mix in the metro, snow showers up around the eastern shore, lighter amounts to the west. So here's the way the models are now producing the potential. You see there the better chances for some minor accumulations, northern parts of the area, if the GFS is correct. And Eugene, an important thing to note, what you're seeing there is banking on moisture getting that far north and west. May or may not happen. We have to see. The Euro, which has been the most consistent of the models, says, yeah, maybe up around the eastern shore. They all ping on this idea that there should be some transition to snow late Sunday. But in this case, the ground's really warm. What falls will likely melt. You might see some brief accumulation, grassy or elevated surfaces, but that would largely melt, and then maybe a little bit more up on the eastern shore. We'll just have to see. I mean, it's just not a certain thing yet. There's still some uncertainty, so we'll be watching for that. We do know it's going to stay cold today, mostly sunny. Tonight's lows down around 32, and then tomorrow back up into the mid-50s. As we look forward to the 7-day forecast, another shot of cold air into early next week. So we'll see how things play out. Look at that morning temperature on Monday, Eugene. You see that, 24 degrees. If there is a little more moisture, and I'm not saying that there necessarily will be, but if there's any dampness left over, we need to think about some potential leftover freezing spots early Monday. And then really cold as we get into Tuesday. I think Martin Luther King Day looks pretty good. Maybe a little breezy and chilly, but mostly sunny. And then on Tuesday, that's your bitter cold day. Highs only in the mid-30s.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the chance of refreezing at any of the areas here in our region. But
yeah, you know, a lot of it's going to depend on how much wind there is with the precip coming through. That helps to dry up the roads. There might be some poor drainage areas that have a little bit of standing leftover moisture. That would refreeze. So for Monday morning, we'll be watching that. But at this point, the precip should be long gone, and we'll welcome more sunshine for Martin Luther King Day. It will be breezy and chilly, though.
All right. Speaking of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, guess who I saw in person last night at the Hampton, the Urban League of Hampton Roads event last night?
Who was in town? Was it his granddaughter?
His son.
His son?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Martin Luther King III. He spoke at the event, and it was really cool to hear from him in person. Shout out to the Urban League of Hampton Roads for bringing him in Virginia Beach. It was a really good event.
Very cool. Very cool.
good.
Yeah. And again, you know, I think for the observances for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it is going to be generally cooperative, but we just need folks to bundle up. If you're going to be outside and about, know that it will be chilly and breezy. Those wind chills in the 20s and 30s.
And there are going to be people out and about, as they are every single year, with marches and programs and ceremonies. So good for them to know, especially if they're going to be outside, how to dress for all of that. But another thing that is happening, but it's happening tonight, Craig. Let's talk about your star debut here on the ice.
They're giving me access to the ice at the Scope for the Admirals game. It is STEM night with the Admirals. The puck drop, 7:05. You see the whole team there, Evan and Tim, Taylor and Hunter. We're all going to be out there meeting folks. We'll be kind of manning a table there before the game and during the periods. We're going to be switching it up a little bit. But at the intermissions, you will have a chance to find out if you're smarter than a meteorologist. I think Tim Pandagis will be kind of squaring off against different folks from the stands as we face some weather trivia and some talk there. And then I'm going to be doing a puck shooting contest, I think, with some more folks there in the stands. So we'll see, how their puck handling skills are. We also will have, I think, a couple of the Mets out on the Zamboni, which is always interesting. If they let them actually drive it, that will be something.
I don't know if that's safe.
Well, and I just sit there, I think
safe.
You've got some of the ice will be just beautiful, clean, and then other areas it'll be chopped up, and who knows how that'll impact the Admirals.
Hopefully they'll take everyone off the ice if they allow anyone. I think it was Taylor who said that she might really enjoy getting in the Zamboni, but I looked at the graphic. If you could pull that back up, Sarah. Originally when I saw it, I thought, oh, is it going to be, Craig, Tim, and Evan versus Hunter and Taylor on the ice? and I don't think Taylor's going to touch the ice. I think she's going to be there and meeting people. I don't think she's going to go out to actually hit anything on the ice.
We are going to have a blast. There's no doubt about that. And again, just a chance to spend some time, answer your questions. I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be asking about what's going on later in the weekend. It will be great. And one other thing, I'm just going to brag on Taylor for just a second here. She does a lot lot of school talks in the area right now. I used to get out and do talks all the time, but our production schedule here at the station, I mean, it keeps us so busy well into the school day. So Taylor has picked up the slack. She is amazing and an inspiration for a lot of students, especially young women in the area that are interested in the sciences and STEM studies. So Taylor's going to be out there. If you have a little one that's interested in science and technology and mathematics, engineering, all of these different types of fields, please come on out and talk to all of our staff. We're all degreed meteorologists, and we'd love to spend some time kind of sharing our stories and then answering questions and maybe giving some advice to young students that are interested in studying. It's a lot of fun. And one other somewhat related weather note.
What?
Can we talk Chicago?
Oh, Lord.
Sunday.
When's you guys' game? Sunday?
Sunday evening.
Okay.
Sunday late afternoon, evening. It's a 6:30 start Eastern, 5:30 Central. Temperatures are going to be in the teens. And we are going to see wind chills in the single digits. Sounds like great weather for football, don't you think?
Not if you're the Los Angeles Rams who are coming in to play against the Bears. They probably hate the idea of
They
that.
have been practicing in 80-degree weather all week while the Bears have been out in the teens. Will it make a difference? The Rams are probably...
It's going to make a difference, sure.
The Rams... Even as a loyal Bear fan, you got to tip your cap to the Rams just on their roster, their skills. They're probably the overall more talented team, and McVay's an incredible coach. But I like the Bear weather. So we'll see. We'll see if that's enough to help maybe tip the balance a little bit.
And we'll see if we might have some frozen tears on Craig's face come Monday.
Yeah. And by the way,
Hopefully
Connor, can we just say this too? One last note, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to all of the actual news going on. We made a little wager about the Bears and the Eagles, who would make it farther in the playoffs. And Connor's going to bring in hot dogs. That was the bet after, Ben Johnson did the whole, good, better, best thing, and there was hot dogs for Chicago.
Sarah's shaking her head. You were here for
I was
this.
here. I think you were off. I was here
You're a
when
witness.
that.
Okay.
I witnessed it,
So yes, he's going to bring in hot dogs for us to
Can't wait.
enjoy in celebration of the Bears advancing in the playoffs. So regardless, it's been a lot of fun.
All right, well, he better bring them soon. That's all I know. How about that?
True.
All right, Craig, we appreciate you, man, and good luck to your Bears. I know I'll send you a text over the weekend regardless of what happens.
Thank you, sir. And hey, we hope to see you tonight out at the Scope.
Absolutely. Have a great time out there. I'll be there too, so hopefully we can see you. And it really is a good time getting to meet our meteorologists. They're so awesome, and I just want to see them try to score with the puck. Really, that's what I'm going there for. All right, so monitoring a few things that are happening at the moment. I'll go ahead and tell you that we are expecting for President Trump to participate in a roundtable discussion on rural health care. They are starting to get seated right now. I see Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has taken his seat at the podium. But also that is happening right now while they wait to get started. I do want to see if we can take this. We have the exiled former Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, who is giving a press conference right now. This amidst those massive protests that are happening in Iran. So far, at least 2,500 people have been killed in just a matter of weeks. Now, he has been pushing for those protests to continue. Also has been trying to get the support of the Trump administration as he is hoping, according to multiple reports, so that there can be a leadership change there in Iran. So let's go ahead and listen to him for a little bit while we await for the President of the United States to also sit down for this roundtable discussion on agriculture.
Because of your steadfastness and fight, thousands of military and security forces have not gone to work so as not to participate in the repression. Save the name of all these criminals. They will be prosecuted for what they have done. Yet justice alone will not heal all the wounds, but it will open the door to healing and a national rebirth. As for the day after our victory, I have a clear plan for the transition to democracy. Millions of Iranians inside and outside Iran are united around these 4 core principles: Iran's territorial integrity, separation of religion and state, individual liberties and equality of all citizens, and the Iranian people's right to decide a democratic form of government. The end of the regime will mark the rebirth of one of the most accomplished civilizations in history for the future of Iran and its people. Iran is blessed with extraordinary human talent and vast natural resources. Our people are highly educated, producing one of the highest numbers of engineers in the world, with around 70% women. Today, the corrupt regime wastes these gifts. In a free Iran, our resources and ingenuity will drive prosperity at home and strengthen global supply chains, including America's. A free Iran will be a game changer for peace in the Middle East and for Iran's relations with the United States and the West. The Iranian people love America and hate this regime. After its collapse, instead of death to America, the world will find a nation that embraces America as a true friend. President Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, bringing peace between Arab nations and Israel. I see extending this idea to a free Iran through what we could call the Cyrus Accords, honoring our ancient heritage of tolerance and partnership. The possibilities are endless. There will be a peaceful, stable, and orderly transition. My team of experts have developed a plan for the first 100 days after the regime's collapse and the long-term reconstruction and stabilization of our country. It is backed by business leaders and provides a detailed roadmap for national recovery. Restoring economic confidence, ensuring that essential services continue uninterrupted, and laying the foundation for prosperity in a free Iran. A constitutional process will follow under international observation, allowing Iranians to finally determine their own destiny through free and fair elections. A free and democratic Iran that emerges will live at peace with our neighbors. It will be an engine of growth and opportunity in the region and the world. There are moments in history where the moral imperative for action is so strong that the weight of inaction becomes unbearable. This is one of those moments. The people of Iran have risen to reclaim their country. History will honor those who stand with them. Long live Iran. Thank you.
Some people have asked in advance. I'm going to call some names and also from the audience, don't worry. And the Princess of Pahlavi will reply to them. I'm going to call firstly Ardavan Misbah from Iran International.
Okay, you heard there from his speech, Pahlavi, the exiled former crown prince of Iran there, calling for a change in leadership. This as those massive protests take place in the country. More than 2,500 people killed in the last few weeks. He's positioning himself there to take over as a transitional leader. You heard him say that he and a team have a plan for 100 days to restore the country. He says the people of Iran hate the current leadership, according to him there, and he's calling for a free and democratic country. And also, you can tell within his comments there, he is trying to push for a partnership with the United States. And speaking of the United States, right now, President Trump has sat down. He is participating in a roundtable discussion. I should say before I go on to that White House envoy Steve Witkoff met with the former crown prince there just within the last few days ahead of this speech. I need to make sure I mention that. But Marta, what are we listening to now when it comes to the president and his roundtable discussion?
Provide some context about the Trump administration and rural health care. So with the One Big Beautiful Bill, they established the Rural Health Transformation Program, and that is an initiative to do a few things. So first, They want to do what they're saying is make rural America healthy again, and that includes preventative health, addressing the root causes of diseases. So, their website, the government website, talks about addressing that. And then they want to have sustainable access to rural health care as well. That means long-term access. That means, providing facilities for people in rural areas to receive health care. And then the final point that was established, or this strategic goal, I should say, the final strategic goal is that they want to develop the workforce in rural areas to improve health care for people. So they want to attract talent, they want to retain talent, to improve healthcare in those areas that are not as populated. So that's not necessarily, we'll hear what he's about to say. That's just context with how the Trump administration relates to this issue. And I'm curious to see what they talk about and if it's just going to be a discussion or, what the president will say during this.
To be totally blunt, what he did care about is insurance companies. And this was a bill to make insurance companies wealthy. And they did. They made insurance companies very wealthy. I would say they don't like me too much because they spent hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're going to have that money spent to the people and given to the people, not we're going to circumvent the insurance companies. Partially as a result, rural health care facilities have suffered from low occupancy rates, workforce shortages, and failing programs that put Band-Aids, literally put Band-Aids over the problems in those communities, and we're not going to have that. We're taking great care of them. With the Rural Health Transformation Program, we are getting rural communities the health support they need, and we're getting it immediately. These funds will go to empowering rural hospitals, strengthening their workforce, modernizing facilities and technology, and ensuring that rural Americans get world-class health care in their own community, right smack in their own community, like they've never had it before. And they've been hurt very badly by the Unaffordable Care Act. Every single Democrat in Congress voted against the lifeline for rural communities. And I hope everyone knows this, and this is not about elections, but I hope you remember this in the midterms, because the Democrats are just so horrible toward the rural community. But I want to take a moment to thank the incredible House and Senate Republicans who worked so hard on making this historic investment possible. That's what they did, and they did work hard. I don't think, got a Democrat vote, did we? Did we get one Democrat vote? We got all Republican votes. It was an amazing feat, and I want to thank Mike, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and John Thune for really doing a great job. It was tough. We have small majorities, and I want to thank the congressmen that are here for doing, in particular, for working so hard and getting this done. Yesterday, I also announced our framework to lower health care prices for all Americans, including those in rural America, and we're calling it the Great Health Care Plan. We had to come up with a name. And everybody wanted to say, oh, well, can we put something about lowering costs, because we're lowering costs very substantially. So I had Bobby and I had Oz. We had everybody in there. We had a whole group of people, and we're trying to come up with, so we're saying, the cost reduction plan that gives you good health care. And I said, it's too long. It's not going to sell. I said, we had more plans. And they wanted to get the words cost reduction in their law, especially you. They wanted cost reduction in, and then they wanted great health care in. I said, look, you can have one or the other, but it gets too long. We're talking about the name of a plan. So we got it down to 7 or 8 words, and which is far too long. Nobody can remember that much. And I said, how about just call it, because this is the Great Health Care Plan. Now, a great plan has to be cost-effective, otherwise it can't be a great plan. That's the way I looked at it. So we have a very glamorous name. It's called the Great Health Care Plan, not the Unaffordable Care Act. I don't like that name. This is called officially the Great Health Care Plan. That means low price and great health care. So you're going to have, at a lower price, great health care. First, our proposal codifies the massive discounts on prescription drugs that my administration is achieving through our most favored nation provisions. Okay, We can go into this. We can go into this for hours, but the bottom line is we'll be paying the lowest price of any nation in the world. Whoever's paying the lowest, we match it. This could have been done years ago. I was going to do it in my first administration, but when COVID came toward the end, I said, I can't believe it wasn't exactly a good time to be doing it. But I said, why isn't somebody doing it? And the reason they're not doing it is that no other nation would agree. France, as an example, paid 10% of what we paid. Germany was paying 13 or 14% what we paid. In other words, we paid many times more, not a little bit more, not 10% more, 10 times more. A pill would cost 10 times more in New York than it would cost in London, as an example, than it would cost in Munich. And this went on for many decades. This was right from the beginning. And the reason it went on was a little bit of the healthcare companies, but it was other nations. And I understand that. If I were heading Germany, I'm not going to double and triple and quadruple my healthcare. They got the healthcare companies to pay. It just took place over a long period of time, got worse and worse. And it just hit numbers that were just absolutely unsaleable. And if you remember, the doctors in the audience remember, they say, well, we have to do research and development. I said, well, what about research and development for Germany? Well, we've decided to put up so the pill would cost 5 times more because of research and development and 5 times more for other reasons. They had all these phony reasons. And finally, I said to the healthcare companies, we can't do it anymore. We can't do it. And it started, really, I tell the story. It wasn't meant to be funny. People find it funny. But a friend of mine who's a very smart guy, very, very rich, very powerful man, actually, but he was very fat. And he took the fat, I call it the fat drug. I won't give you which one. It was Ozempic. I won't tell you that. And he went to London on one of his many business trips. It's all he does is business. He can't walk across the street, but he's a great businessman. And he said, President. I said, what? He used to call me Donnie. Now he calls me President. So I said, you've come a long way. He goes, but I have a problem. What's your problem? In New York, I pay $1,300 for this drug. Now, this means nothing to him. This is like a penny out of your wallet. The guy's worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. He said, and in London, sir, I pay just a fraction of that. I said, what are you paying? $87. I said, well, is it the same drug? I knew exactly what he was getting at because it bothered me for a long time. He said, it's the exact same drug. And because of his wealth and his business smarts, he had it checked. It was made in the same plant by the same company. It's identical. And here I pay $87, and in New York I pay $1,300. So it was too much to bear because after I told him that the drug does not work on him, because I saw him recently, he's actually fatter than ever. I said, the drug is not working on you. You're going to have to go to something else. But it does work on a lot of people. And he said, thanks, you make me feel good. I said, well, I got to be truthful. You always tell the truth, right, Mr. Congressman? Oh, look, two of the great congressmen. But the drug, we have to do something about it because that's the same with I would say, Bobby, every drug, essentially. Doesn't have to be in that proportion. In some cases, it's much worse. Because what happened, I might as well get off this crap because it doesn't explain it properly. Because what happened is these countries are very smart, and the drug companies would go to them, and they said, look, we're paying $10 for the pill. We're not paying more. Charge America. Mm-hmm. And this happened one time, then the next year. This is over 40 years. All of a sudden, they're paying $10 for a pill, and we're paying like $130 for the same pill. It just happened over years, slowly. And it got to a point over the last 10, 12, 15 years where it just was unbearable. And I went to a great executive at Eli Lilly, the top man. He's a very smart guy. And I confronted him, and he had the same line that they always had, blah, 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 research and development. I said, look, we got to stop this nonsense. We're paying 10 times more for things in Europe. It's not research and development. And if it is research and development, they should pay their fair share of that too. And he said to me, and he's a great guy, he said, look, you're right, we can't defend it anymore. I said, you're admitting it? Because these guys had a all of them. They must have taken a class together. Must have been, it's probably illegal what they did, Lola, you'll check it, right? They must have gone to school together and said, this is the way we're going to fight this crazy thing where the United States pays 10, 12, 13 times more for a drug. Same drug made in the same plant. And he said, here's the problem we have. The nations are brutal. When we go in and say, we have to give you an increase, they say, no. Put it on America, we're not paying you anything. And they say it with such power, and they actually shut us off from selling the drug. And it just happened over and over again. It got a little worse, a little worse, a little worse. All of a sudden, we're paying many times more for the same. I said, well, it's not going to happen anymore. He said, the problem is, sir, you'll never get the nations to agree. It's impossible. They're very tough, and they are. And they'd have to agree to a doubling or tripling of their drug prices in order to get you down, because the world is a bigger place than us. So it's not like you cut it in half. Actually, if they raised it a little bit, we'd go down a lot. You understand that? I think people understand that. So you raise it like from $10 to $20 or $10 to $30, but we'd go from 130 down to 30 or down to 20. So, because the numbers are much bigger, the numbers on their side are much bigger. So they'd need a doubling or tripling or quadrupling. Now, if you're the head of France, the last thing you want to do is say, I'm going to quadruple the cost of a drug. And that's the way it is. But I said, I know, but it's not fair. And this is taking place. And the head of Eli Lilly, and I really mean it, an unbelievable executive, an unbelievable guy, one of the most successful companies, and who's, by the way, spending hundreds of billions of dollars right now. He told me the other day, he's building 6 major plants in the United States. You know why he's doing that? Because of tariffs. He's doing that because of tariffs. Without tariffs, he wouldn't be doing it. Nobody understood tariffs until I came along. Nobody understood, other than President McKinley. He understood them a long time ago. And because of him, we were the richest nation that we ever were at that period of time. And then when he died, he was assassinated. Teddy Roosevelt came over and he inherited a war chest, and he built the Panama Canal, which is the single most expensive thing ever built in the history of the United States, relatively. We spent what would be the equivalent of $5 trillion building the Panama Canal. It was also the most successful thing probably we've ever built, and to this day. And then Jimmy Carter gave it away for $1. This is the same theory we have on favored nations. The great Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, gave it away for $1. We lost 38,000 men. In those days, it was men. I hate to say this, but mostly men. They didn't have a lot of women workers on the Panama Canal. But we lost 38,000 people. They died from malaria and snake bites. It was a combination of that, a vicious snake, one of the most vicious. You get hit, you're dead. They died from snake bites. 38,000. They paid workers from the United States 3 times more than they made to come over to Panama and dig. For many of them, that was not a good deal. They died, 38,000. We gave it away for that. But that same stupidity having to do with the Panama Canal, and I could tell you about 100 other stories too. You don't have time. But that's what went into this whole thing with favored nations. So Europe and other nations all over the world were getting drugs from the same plant, same factory, same everything, same location, everything, same company, for a tiny fraction of what we're paying. So our people were paying a tremendous amount. So the gentleman from Eli Lilly and others, we had a meeting, and they all finally put up their hands. You got us. We give up. And they were great from that time. But we had a problem. The other nations weren't going for it. France turned it down. Germany turned it down. UK turned it down. European Union turned it down, the whole group. And they said, there's nothing you can do about it, sir. And I said, yes, there is. No, there isn't. You'll never be able to get them up. Or never. I mean, the whole industry is going to be torn apart. I said, we'll get them up easily. Are you crazy? Of course we'll get them up. That's what I do for a living. I get people up. So I started with President Macron of France, and a very nice person. I like him a lot. I hope he's listening because he doesn't believe that, but I do. He's a nice man. And I said, Emmanuel, yes, Donald, thank you so much for calling. Oh, I said, you're not going to like this call. You're going to have to get your drug prices up. No, I will not do that. I said, Emmanuel, we're paying 13 times more than, 13 times, not 13%, 13 times more than you are for this pill. I rattled off some numbers that are crazy. You know the numbers I'm talking about, Oz. Oz would give me some numbers. I'd say, this is crazy. We're paying 10 times, 12 times, 13 times. No, I will not do that. I said, look, you've got to do it. 100% you're going to do it. No, Donald, I told you I will not do that. I said, here's the story, Emmanuel. If you don't do it, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on all goods, wine, champagnes, and everything else coming into the United States of America. He said, Donald, I would love to do this for you. It would be a great honor to do it. And that's where it began. And I went through country after country. Susie was responsible for getting every one of those leaders on the thing. Susie, by the way, stand up, Susie. She is doing such a good job. She's the first female chief of staff. And she might be the best chief of staff, too. But she's doing a great job. Thank you, Susie. So Susie got him on. And I just went one after another. I called Germany. No, we will not do that. I said, no, we're going to put a 25% tariff, which is, by the way, about 7 times more than they would have to pay by raising their drug. Like 7 times. This wasn't like a little bit more. 7 times more. And I may do that for Greenland, too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little. I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing health care by numbers that you haven't seen. So I spoke to the top 10 countries. They all said no, and within about 2 minutes, they all agreed. And we were off to the races. And now we have favored nations. It's called most favored nations. So if France is paying, let's say, $20 or $30 instead of $10, we are going to pay that 20 or 30. We pay the lowest price, whatever the lowest price is. So if France is paying $100, but Germany is paying $20, we pay what Germany pays. So we go from a horrible situation on drugs, prescription drugs, to the lowest price anywhere in the world. Is that a correct statement, Oz? Because they're going to blame you. If you want to correct me, you can, but you won't be here for long if you do. They'll
You're
say,
correct, Mr.
Oz has
President.
left employment. No, but is that a correct statement?
That's an absolutely correct statement. And that's what we want to codify in the great health care plan.
Yeah.
That's
what
why
we're
it's so
codifying.
important.
That's
Because
right.
if the president's not here, there's a flight risk with these companies not obliging us anymore, because I think it's the strength of your personality, but also they know they will follow through with the threats if we don't act. So we believe other countries will change their opinions, and so will drug companies. So we've got to get it into legislation.
Well, if you have the wrong president, the countries have tremendous influence over us. They look, why did we go to an income tax system instead of a tariff system? We had the wealthiest nation. If you go back to the 1800s, 1887, we had money, so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. But the countries at that time, same, no different. They have a tremendous influence over this country. For whatever reason, I don't know, but they do. So if you have the wrong president, they'll change the system in 2 minutes. I mean, they'll change it. And the drug companies are very powerful, too. You have to deal with them. In this case, it was both. I mean, you had a problem with the drug companies, but you had a tougher problem, in theory, other than the fact that I understood how to deal with them. And I'm the tariff king, and the tariff king has done a great job. And I hope we win the Supreme Court case, because if we don't, be a shame for our country. Be a shame. We have a great, safe, beautiful country now. We're doing better than we've ever done. We hit 42 stock market highs during the 11-month period that I've been here. There's never been anything like it. Stock market's hitting a new high again today. So it's it's been incredible. So just to end it on this, because it's such a big subject and it can't be explained by reading. As good as my speechwriter is, he's fantastic, but he can't write it in one sentence what we're talking about. So we're going to get most favored nations. We will be taking prescription drugs down to levels never even contemplated. And that's all great for healthcare, because when you're paying a tiny fraction of what you had anticipated paying prior to today, prior to this month, this all took place over the last month and a half. And the sad part is that when we first announced it, and we did it in a little bit more general form, when we first announced it, the Times did a story on page 22 or something, way back in the little story in the back of the newspaper. This is the biggest revolution in the history of medicine in this country because it's price. You're going to buy the drugs for a small fraction of what you were paying for them last month. And I tell the story of my first term. I was the one, after 28 years, that got drug prices down. It was either 1/4 or 1/8 of 1%. I got them down for the year. First time in 28 years. I was so proud of myself, I called a news conference. I said, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 28 years, drug prices have gone down for the year. 1/8 of a point. In fact, I had a chart. It was the worst chart I've ever seen. It was a line that went from January to December, and it was dead straight. You had to get a little, like a carpenter uses to see. I said, this doesn't look good. It's not the greatest line, but I was proud of it because it did. It went down either 1/4 of a point or 1/8 of a point, tiny. And now think of what we're doing. We're bringing medicine down by many times. Nobody's ever seen. And there are two ways of calculating. You could say 1,000%, 2,000, or you could say 90% or 80%. The Democrats want you to say 90 or 80, but there are two ways of calculating it. You understand that, Dan? And we'll take either way. It doesn't matter. But we'll be paying a tiny fraction. So that's going to go into our plan. And what Oz said is very important. It's very important that whoever is in this office is, strong and intelligent. And if they're not, they could, it could be ended. But what we want to do is we want to have it codified so it's very hard to change. And that's all part of the process. I think it's the greatest revolution because it's financial is, a big part of the drugs. And all of the doctors sitting there know exactly what I'm talking about. They have their patients in Europe and they're saying, I can't believe it. I'm buying the same thing for, 15% of what I pay in New York or in Chicago. And they're all nodding their heads. That's right. That's not going to happen anymore. We pay now, just to end it, the lowest price in the world, whatever that is, that's what the United States of America will be paying. Isn't that an amazing, long story? I was going to say long, boring. It's not boring. To me, it's long and exciting. It's the biggest thing to happen to healthcare. I don't think there's anything we can do. We can do all of our different methods, but there's nothing we can do that can ever top what we do. And the press should treat it fairly instead of not writing about it, because they don't write about it because it's me. Primarily because it's me, but also because it's Republican. And they don't write about it, and they should be ashamed. But fortunately, the public understands it, and that's why we won the election in a landslide. So it's a great thing. Instead of Americans paying the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by far, by 10 times sometimes, will now pay the lowest cost paid by the lowest nation. So the lowest nation, whatever that is, I hope they negotiate a great deal. I hope somebody out there of all those nations is going to be a better negotiator than everybody else. And whatever they get, we get, Mike. Is that pretty good? Look at Mike. Even the first time I've ever seen him smile. And next, our plan would reduce your insurance premiums by stopping government payoffs to big insurance companies and sending the money directly to the people. So instead of, and this started, and I'm not really a healthcare maven, but I was always a good businessman. It started, I'm reading the paper, and I see the money that the insurance companies were making from us on Obamacare, and they're up by 1,000%, I think one was up 1,723%, 1,700%. And it's because of the massive amount of money that's sent to them by the United States government. And I said, why don't we just send it directly to the people instead? And I made that statement. It was a common sense statement. I didn't check with anybody. I didn't even call Oz or anybody. It just made sense. I made a statement, and it went viral. Can you believe it? It was so popular. In other words, we cut out the insurance companies. They're making a fortune. And, you know, they're good people. They're business people. I don't blame them. But we cut them out. We pay the money directly to the people. The people love it. I said it, I said it as a non-professional in that business. And I made the statement like, all of a sudden, it's like the biggest story, that one, the biggest story. And I get a call from Caroline, who's around here someplace. She said, sir, we're getting inundated. Margot called me too. Margot, you called me too. Margot, everyone knows Margot. She's been here from the beginning, right from the beginning. But she said, sir, both of them. They said, sir, we're being inundated by what? You made a statement about health care being paid directly to the people into health savings accounts or whatever you want, health care accounts. And I said, I did. What's the story? He said, it's crazy. It's blown up. People loved it. And so that's where we started. So Obamacare was designed to make insurance companies rich. It really was. I mean, maybe not knowingly at the time by Obama, because he didn't know much about this stuff. That was designed by other people in Congress that are total pros that are bought off by the insurance companies. And the problem we'll have with this is we'll get no Democrat votes, even though it should be very bad for them if they don't. But maybe you'll get some. You'll call some of your friends, fellas, and Bob, you'll call some of your friends over on the other side. I don't know how they can reject it. It's just so popular. It's so compelling. So Obamacare was designed to make insurance companies rich with taxpayer subsidies, and I want that extra money straight to the health savings accounts for you. And you can choose your own health care. You go out and negotiate your own health care. It makes people entrepreneurs, mini entrepreneurs. They'll pick the health care that's best for them because it's so different. A young person, they need health care for different reasons, and an old person doesn't need certain things that a young person needs, and vice versa. To further reduce insurance premiums, my plan ends the giant kickbacks to insurance brokers and corporate middlemen. We're getting rid of the middlemen. How long have you heard doctors, all these doctors over there, they look so smart. They're all brilliant people. I assume you're brilliant, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? I assume we have the best. Do we have the best of the doctors, I would imagine, right? Hey, how cool is the White House, okay? They're always in operating rooms. I wouldn't want to be in an I don't like operating rooms, but they do. But how cool is the White House, right? The coolest place on earth. And this is where it all begins. This is where we came up with a little concept about a place called Venezuela. How did that work out? And this is going to be the same thing in terms of its precision. Its importance is so big. It's going to work just like that. The one is Venezuela was so amazing, but I equate that to other things because we can do other things like that. It doesn't always have to be a Minnesota where everything is corrupt, where they have health care centers that nobody shows up and somebody's making millions of dollars, where they have daycare centers where there are no kids. It's a scam. It's a big scam. It's like a horrible thing. We have a country that was great. We have a country that's now great again. It's really come a long way. Make America Great Again is almost going to be obsolete because our country is very close to, we were going to keep America great. We may have to switch to keep America great. But I don't know. There's something about MAGA we should never change it. Susie said, don't change. We like MAGA. Everybody likes MAGA. So we want to make this precision, just like a Venezuela, just like the attack on the Iran nuclear weapons, which wiped that out, just like all of the other things we do, they're precision. We want to make it the opposite of Minnesota, California, and all these places that are so badly run. So to further reduce insurance premiums, my plan ends the giant kickbacks to those insurance brokers and corporate middlemen that you've been hearing about for so long. It also funds the so-called cost-sharing reduction program to bring down the cost of the most common plans on the exchanges by more than 15%. And next, the great health care plan mandates unprecedented accountability and transparency from insurance companies and all health care providers. We want transparency. You're not allowed to ask a doctor how much is it going to cost. You're going to have your heart ripped out, and you're not allowed to negotiate. This is a giant scam. It's, in certain ways, look, nothing can compare to most favored nations. But when you give yourself the right to negotiate, you're not allowed to even ask how much it costs. You're supposed to go into a hospital and get operated on. Then they send you a bill and you have to file for bankruptcy. Not going to let that happen. So we're going to have insurance companies and healthcare providers going to have great, and hospitals, great transparency. The word transparency is a very important word. So they can't get away with ripping you off any longer. It requires insurance companies to make it easy for you to compare plans. You got to be able to compare plans. You can't do that now. You're not allowed to do that. It's not even believable. I tell you what, I used to sit before I was a politician home, and I used to say, how is that possible? Things happen that, I guess it's just the forces of nature, the forces of power, and you end up with very, very badly treated people, and they won't stand for it. But these forces are going to release an earthquake of reduced price health care. You're going to have massively reduced costs. This is no longer we're going to cut it by the famous 1/8 of a point. You're going to have massively reduced health care, and it's going to be massively better. You're going to have great health care at a much lower price, which is the two things. We want great health care and we want low price. You're going to have great health care at low price. Now you have terrible health care at a high price. You have horrible, horrible Obamacare health care. Like everything else he did, it was crap. It was a horrible plan. It was from day one and should have never been approved. It was a very sad night that night when there was a thumb raised. Most importantly, will require any hospital or insurer who accepts Medicare or Medicaid to prominently post all prices. You're going to post your prices at their place of business. Something they don't have to do, something they're not even allowed to do. We'll have the maximum price transparency, and the cost will come down just by that, not even talking about favored nations. The price will come down. So just in conclusion, I'm calling on Congress to pass this framework into law so that we can get immediate relief to the American people, including rural America. And I hope to get Democrat votes. They know, they saw it. I know a lot of Democrats. And they say that plan is unbelievable. Are you going to vote? Well, I'm going to try. They have tremendous pressure on them. Vote no. Vote no. We have a couple of Republicans. Thomas Massey always votes no. He's like, something wrong with the guy. If you have any clinical psychiatrists in there, maybe go check out his mind. But he always votes no. He's a very bad person. He's a very bad Republican, bad American when you always vote no. Just vote no. Do you approve? No. You know, there's not a thing you can say to him either, Lola. Look, Lola wants to be nice. He likes to get along with everybody. I don't. But they vote no. But so I don't know. You know, you have some people, they're very, I call him Rand Paul Jr. Rand Paul always votes. I don't know why he votes no, but I guess he thinks it's good politics. I got him elected twice. If I didn't endorse him, he wouldn't have been elected. But he doesn't reciprocate, and I guess that's okay. But I want to hear now, if I could, from Dr. Oz, and then we're going to have Dan Sullivan say a few words, and Rob and Mike, and Governor, you're going to say a few words, and we appreciate you being here very much. You're doing a fantastic job. I just want to leave by saying that this is the biggest thing to ever happen to healthcare in our country. It will not be covered that way by the fake news, and that's a sad thing. It will probably not be voted positively by the Democrats, and that's a sad thing. They all know how good it is. I think we can make health care into a Republican issue because the Republicans are going to be close to unanimous on this. It should be unanimous. Maybe we will be unanimous, but it'll be close. But we have a small majority. We probably need a little bit of help from the Democrats. So whatever we can do, we're going to do it. It's the biggest thing to happen to health care, maybe from the beginning. So, Oz, would you take it away, please? Thank you very much.
Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you for standing up for American health care. And I just want to underline this fundamentally important issue. We need Congress to help craft the Great America Health Care Plan. And the Great Health Care Plan will work. It's a brilliantly conceived framework. And as it comes to the American people, they understand that they'll want it. And it should represent the analogous situation, similar to what you did so brilliantly last spring with the Working Families Tax Cut legislation that the President mentioned, has created the Rural Health Transformation Fund, which is why we're here today. I want to put a little bit of texture around why this is such an important issue, because the Rural Health Transformation Fund is the largest investment ever in American history in our rural communities. Yeah, how about 50% increase in the amount of money that Medicaid, which Secretary Kennedy and I regulate, into our rural communities, $50 billion. You can do the math, it's $1 billion per state, and that's an important factor because it got them competing. There are 60 million rural Americans, and these folks do not have access to the same care that's available in urban and suburban America. Their life expectancy, if they're in a vulnerable.
Okay, at the end there, you were hearing from Dr. Mehmet Oz, who is the now U.S. Director over Medicaid and Medicare. But prior to that, President Donald Trump spoke for quite a bit there about this health care plan that he is calling the Great Health Care Plan, speaking about lower drug prices, wanting to hold companies accountable, lower insurance premiums, to have more transparency, and looking at some changes when it comes to prescription drugs. He tried to compare within that the costs that people across the world are paying in comparison to the prices that people here in America have to pay, saying that we are paying much more for certain healthcare prices. But Marta, it was interesting hearing from him in that conversation there for maybe the last 25 or so minutes. We heard the plan, but we already have heard from Democrats, too, their response. What are they saying?
Well, yeah, I think it's first important to start with the fact that I don't think anybody disputes that healthcare is very expensive in the United States, and it's not something that the people that live here like to have to deal with. On both sides of the aisle, there's agreement on that. So when this healthcare plan is released, when you're reading it, I think to most people it sounds pretty nice. Lower prescription drug costs, let's lower the cost for long-term care, et cetera, et cetera. But where Democrats take issue is they're saying this is a page proposal on the White House's website. There's no details, there's no framework laid out, this is what Democrats are saying, like no meaningful action to actually lower healthcare costs. And of course, we're watching this take place as that ACA tax credit legislation is currently in limbo in Congress. So while the general framework, I think, sounds good to a bipartisan group of people, where Democrats take issue is they don't think it's specific enough.
Yeah, and you heard the president there saying that he has been or wants to use leverage in his tariff plan to kind of put pressure on other countries to collaborate, to cooperate, I guess is a better word, with the United States on some of this. And, speaking to what you're saying, some of the criticism of the president in both of his terms and against the GOP over the last decade or so has been they have constantly called for the repealing and changing of the Affordable Care Act, and those who were detractors against that say, hey, they've been waiting for a comprehensive plan. Now, we know that the House GOP a few weeks ago passed that health care plan. This was when there was all the conversation coming about the ACA enhanced tax subsidies expiring. They passed the plan with, elements of what you just heard from the president saying there that did not include the extension of those tax credits. And so this is where they're going. The president saying, that, again, calling it the Great Health Care Plan. This is going to be their push moving forward, calling on Congress to pass this so that they can make some way in that. So we'll see what happens from an actual legislative side to see if the Senate will go along with this and how Democrats will likely push back against it too. Something else, though, I want to mention that really stuck out to me that did not have to deal with health care. It was the president's comments, if you caught it, on Greenland. When he was mentioning applying pressure to other countries using tariffs, he also said there, he says, well, maybe he'll put tariffs on other countries if they don't go along with the U.S.'s desires for Greenland, because we need Greenland. That was something that really stuck out with me, to me, as you've had all of this kind of rising conversation from the U.S. on its desire to take over Greenland and other countries across the world, particularly NATO and obviously Denmark, which is in control of Greenland, pushing back and saying that's not only a bad idea, it would mark the end of NATO and it would be terrible for our allies. But here you have the president, once again, kind of stoking that fire, saying, hey, maybe we will take some kind of aggressive stance to bend some, bend some things so that we can get Greenland. So he's putting that out there again. I thought that really stuck out to me. So some news coming out of that press conference in the moment. Another thing that we're monitoring right now, speaking of the president, just yesterday, the president met with the Venezuelan opposition leader, Machado, and she is expected to hold a press conference here in a matter of minutes. We are actually going to be recording on that if we can't get to the top of it. But right now, I would like to go to some news that is unfolding here in Norfolk. Matter of fact, not far from where we are here at the station. What is this address, Marta, that we have here? There is a police presence in Norfolk. I believe it's on Front Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's Front Street. If you're familiar with the area, it's at the apartment complex that's near the PETA headquarters. So there's a dog park over there. We don't know anything about what's happening at the scene. All we know is our reporters are there gathering information. They took these pictures, and then that van you can see off in the distance, that's the forensics unit. So we'll wait and see what details Norfolk Police provide and why they felt the need to call forensics to the scene.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we wanted to bring it to you. We were seeing the images and the video from our reporter, Brittany Miller, who was there on the scene, and the fact that we see the forensics vehicle and that police tape, we thought, okay, at least let's mention that something is happening over there, even if we don't know what that something is. We have reached out to police, and we do expect at some point to get some kind of information on that. But for us here, that's really, truly, just yards away, really basically across the street from where we're located here in Norfolk. So being able to spot that as it is happening essentially in our backyard. As soon as we get information, we'll bring that back up. Maybe we can even bring in Brittany at some point to tell us what she has learned, if there is any new details coming about. Okay, let's go ahead and transition now to history that is about to unfold in the Commonwealth. We're talking about the inauguration. We're just now a day away until that takes place, and the first woman to become governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're talking about Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger. This will take place tomorrow around noon in Richmond. And already in Richmond, we have Janet Roach, who is going to be there covering everything leading up to and during the historic inauguration taking place tomorrow.
She looks cold, I have to say.
She does look cold. We had Craig Muller in talking about the temperatures there, saying it's going to be a little chilly there for you, Janet. It looks like you feel it, but hey, you also, there's history to be made, so a little cold won't hurt.
Maybe, but actually the sun is out. The sun is definitely glaring. I feel it over here on my left side, so that's a good thing. So it's actually, believe it or not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the sky is blue. It's a beautiful day here, actually, here in Richmond. You would think that you probably hear sirens behind me, but you would think that things would be a little bit more abuzz because of what's happening tomorrow, but things are actually pretty calm. The Capitol right behind me. If you listen real carefully, you probably can't hear it over the sirens. You will hear some of the sound checking going on. And I don't know for sure, but I think about 20 minutes ago, it really sounded like Abigail Spanberger. So maybe she was kind of testing out the stage. But yeah, right behind me, you see it. You see the rafters are already set up. There are going to be so many people here. People had to come based on a lottery. That lottery, of course, is closed now. And of course, you're going to have so many dignitaries and people who will be here tomorrow to witness this historic event. Yes, 74 governors. And now finally, the 75th, we have a female governor, Abigail Spanberger. I had an opportunity to talk to her a little bit about that about a week ago. Doesn't seem like she's really leaning into that. I think she's proud to be the first woman, but it's about the people, so she says. So take a listen to what she said to me when I asked her, how does it feel being the first female governor elected in the Commonwealth?
It's exciting, it's interesting, and It's exciting, it's interesting, and I think the way that I experience it, I think most deeply, is when I will have parents, even when I was campaigning, but certainly now since I've been the governor-elect, tell their kids, both their daughters and their sons, she's going to be the first woman governor. And I was at an event a number of weeks ago, and there were some teenage girls there. And one of the young women was so excited. She said, "Oh my goodness, you're going to be governor. You're going to be the first woman governor." And then she looked at me, she said, "And I'm," talking about herself, "and I'm going to be president."
Wow.
And so I think there's something really special about the fact that young girls, kids, can sort of see that when somebody breaks one barrier, that there are many other barriers that they themselves then want to break. And so I think that's the exciting piece of it for me, is knowing, certainly not just being the first woman governor, but knowing that ideally there will be many, many, many to come in the years who will just do good work, and we might get to a place where it's just the governor.
Yeah, just the governor, many, many, many more. So she is excited about that. She's excited about that history. The theme that she has chosen for this inauguration is United for Virginia's Future. United for Virginia's Future. And it's not just about her swearing in here tomorrow. There is so much going on. This is an action-packed weekend. There's an inaugural parade, and I pulled up a list of some of the people who are participating in that parade. You have the Virginia Women's Institute of Leadership at Mary Baldwin University, the Virginia Professional Firefighters, Colonial Williamsburg Fifes and Drums, Girl Scouts of Virginia. I thought that was a nice touch. Virginia's Public University team mascot. So we're going to see the mascot from CNU. We'll see the mascot from Hampton, as well as ODU as well, and Norfolk State. They also had that Made in Virginia market. That's going to be going on a little bit later this afternoon, where you have all these vendors from all over the state. They will present their goods and talk to people and mix, and it's just kind of like a happy event. And there are several people from Virginia who will be displaying some of their goods. I think we have some folks from Williamsburg and Hampton as well. Our Layla Cox, she's going to be out there later this afternoon covering that event. And then, of course, you have the inaugural ball that's going on. Most people not invited to that. And then one of the final things that she will do tomorrow is sign the executive orders. That usually happens when either a president or a governor is inaugurated. They have some things that they immediately want to get done. So she will be signing some executive orders late tomorrow afternoon, sometime after the parade. And I'll be here. I'm going to be here all day today. I'll be here first thing in the morning, cold or not. Back to you guys.
Janet, thank you so much. I want to ask you this quick question, because you sat down with Governor-elect Spanberger and held that conversation with her. You mentioned the executive orders that she'll be sitting down to sign. Any kind of indication on what will be her first plan of action when it comes to those orders? I know they talked a lot about affordability in the state and the Commonwealth. Any insight that you may have gotten from that sit-down interview and what those will be?
Well, she did talk a lot about affordability. She didn't mention an executive order when it comes to affordability, but one executive order that we are expecting her to sign is to rescind Executive Order 47, and that was signed by Governor Youngkin. I just happen to have that here. It's an order that directs state law enforcement and corrections officers to assist with federal immigration enforcement and to request localities to fully cooperate with U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement removal and other enforcement operations. So that's really interesting given what we have going on right now. We're looking at all the scenes from Minneapolis, the protesting, the fatal shooting of Renee Good, So it's just been, tensions are definitely very, very high when it comes to the issue of ICE and how they're operating in several cities across the country. So that is an order, is order number 47, and she does plan on rescinding that. And when Youngkin signed it, one of the things that he said, and this is a quote from him, "This order will allow Virginia State Police and the Department of Corrections to partner with President Trump's administration on federal immigration enforcement. Dangerous criminal illegal immigrants should not be let back into our communities to assault, rape, and murder. They should be sent back where they came from." That's what Governor Youngkin said when he signed that order a while back. So we'll see what happens there. That is certainly something that people are going to be watching, and we'll have updates along the way.
Okay, Janet, thank you so much. It'll be interesting to see, what all she does in the first 48 hours as her being the governor. And then obviously the first 100 days, again, this historic moment with Abigail Spanberger becoming the first woman as governor of Virginia, particularly at a time right now we're seeing as a Democrat for her with what's happening in the White House, with Republicans controlling that. So certainly it will be interesting. And Janet, we look forward to hearing from much more from you and Layla Cox over the next 2 days or so. I know we'll have you on the stream again from 1 until 3. Again, for those of you who would like to watch the inauguration, we will be streaming that live. You can join our coverage right here on 13 News Now Plus starting Saturday at 11:30 in the morning. Go ahead and download the app, particularly if you're watching us right now via YouTube. Download our 13 News Now Plus app. You can get that on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV, and you can watch the ceremony there from Richmond live as the first woman to become governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Abigail Spanberger will be officially sworn in. So a lot of history to be made there as we switch leadership here within the Commonwealth. Okay, right now we're monitoring, again, a few different things that are happening in the moment. We're still waiting for Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado to come out and do a speech that is expected at some point. We were thinking she would already be at the podium, but that is not the case. This comes just a day after she met with President Donald Trump and delivered a bit of a gift to the president that he has been calling for. Marta, it was just yesterday where we were sitting here talking about the Nobel Peace Prize and how the president has been saying that he deserves it. And he had said that Machado mentioned that she would give it to him, she becoming, the winner of that prize in 2025. And we were saying we hadn't heard from her about that. We heard about the Nobel Committee saying that you cannot transfer it, like that's not going to happen, that cannot happen. Then we heard from her yesterday where she was speaking to reporters, and she said that she left the prize.
So I guess the Nobel Committee says you can't transfer it officially, but maybe if you just give it to Trump, you can. That's effectively what she says happened, and that's what Trump says happened as well. He posted a picture on social media holding the framed award with Machado in the picture. She says she presented him the award. But again, that goes against the Nobel Committee's statement that, you will never be able to transfer the award. You will never be able to rescind it. We know it was about a 2.5-hour meeting during which, of course, we also had basically at the same time the Trump administration overtaking a 6th Venezuelan oil tanker. So a lot was going on during that time frame. But I do want to read what Machado told reporters. She said she presented the President of the United States the medal, the Nobel Peace Prize, as a recognition for his unique commitment to our freedom. She also then, after the meeting, went out and spoke with reporters, basically told supporters, we can count on Trump. She briefly was chanting, "Thank you, Trump." So it's definitely interesting, and I think it's additionally interesting, and maybe, Eugene, you can speak to this a little bit. She is not in power in Venezuela right now, and even though Maduro is in custody, his second in command is now the acting president, and Trump has said Machado he doesn't know if she would be a good leader because he doesn't know how popular she would be within the nation.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the dynamics that are at play right now. Very similar to what we saw at the top of this stream. We were looking at the exiled former crown prince of Iran, who was giving a passionate plea amidst all those protests out there. You could tell that he was speaking to the president of the United States. He was speaking to the U.S. To say, hey, support me and my team to be the transitional leaders, assuming that the protests are going to be able to unravel the current leadership there in Iran, and just signaling, hey, we would like for the support of the U.S. Very similar circumstance when you look at it that way to what we're hearing from Machado here. She's clearly trying to make a bond with the president of the United States to gain his support. You would imagine that is in part probably why she left the prize with him and met with him, because there's questions over what will happen ultimately in Venezuela. And right now we're not really seeing indications with the vice president there in Venezuela, who's now been sworn in, if they're going to just go along with all of, what the U.S. has signaled that it potentially wants there. So, Machado, this is her opportunity, I can imagine, to try to, get on the good side of President Trump and make her move to try to become, in leadership there within Venezuela. Who knows how that will actually unfold and actually, turn out in the long run. But you're seeing that in this situation, the search for an ally.
Well, and I think the hope is eventually there will be a fair election in Venezuela. Trump has commented and said he doesn't know if she would be popular enough to win. There are opinions out there that Machado would have won in a fair election against Maduro, but of course he's considered to be a dictator. So we really don't know how an election in that framework would result. So I think it's interesting. I think we've got Maduro in custody, but we have somebody who is friendly to Maduro, Delcy Rodriguez, who has signaled that they're still loyal to him. So Machado's involvement in this and Trump's, I guess, not loyalty, but, who he's sort of leaning towards, I think is still to be revealed.
Yeah, it is. And all of this in the backdrop of the U.S. moving in on Venezuela, right? Mm-hmm. And capturing President Maduro. He's now being held in Brooklyn along with his wife, facing charges here in relation to drug trafficking. And it's, all of this unfolding in a matter of weeks, really. And so, again, we're waiting for Machado to come up and speak. That is likely going to happen here in a few moments, while we are also still seeing the president being asked questions now, currently from a podium in that healthcare roundtable that we showed you not long ago. But right now, what I would like to do, just for a little bit of time while we're waiting for Machado to come up, if we can go to this this press conference that's taking place in Ohio. We have the EPA administrator and then Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, and a U.S. trade representative. They are all speaking about affordable cars there in the Ohio area. So, we're seeing them. We might as well just listen in to what they have to say at the moment. And then as soon as Machado comes out, we will go to her as well.
Have a good one job. You can have one job. You don't need to have 2 or 3 jobs. You can have one job and own a home, own a car, support a family, and retire with dignity. Because that's the essence of the American dream. It's what we're fighting for. And soon you're going to see something that we passed called the Working Families Tax Cut Act. That's going to put money directly in your pockets. All the overtime that you've worked, where you've stayed away from your families, you've taken time away from other things in your life that you can do to work right here during that overtime, we're going to refund all the taxes that you paid on that overtime. You're going to see that money. You're going to see a child tax credit. You're going to see a credit for daycare, because at the end of the day, the people who are wealthy in this country are doing just fine. Our job in Congress is to make certain that you have somebody who's fighting for you every single day. And as these guys said, we've just begun. Thank you for all the hard work that you guys do. Know that you have people in the administration and in Congress that are fighting for you. One of the ones that I know is my absolute partner in making this happen is your congressman. Let me bring him up, Paul Blotto. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here. I want to thank the administration folks for being with us, because again, what you're seeing here today is America is greatness, and it starts with the workers here. This is my district. We have over 80,000 manufacturing jobs in the 5th District. We make things, but if we're going to make things, we have to have affordable energy. I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I serve as the Energy Subcommittee Chair. And I know this, if energy prices go up, two things happen. People can't go out and buy more vehicles, and the other thing is plants have a harder time to operate because their costs go up. So we've been working on in the Energy and Commerce Committee to make sure we bring these costs down and make sure we have the energy being here right in the United States, because again, this is our security. We want to make sure that folks, when you go to the gas station, last night in my district, I bought gas for $2.29. You know, not too long ago in the Biden administration, we saw gas prices skyrocketing. So we have to make sure we have the energy out there. So that makes sure, again, on the oil side, the natural gas side, you name it, that we're bringing it up. And the other thing that's already been brought up is important. We know when Washington does this, and this is what they did in the past administration, if Washington decides what Americans are going to drive and say who they're going to pick the winners and the losers, I'm going to guarantee you this: the American people are going to lose, because it's up to consumer choice what people want to buy. And I tell you, when you look behind us here with these vehicles that they're making here, all these vehicles are going off the line. They're going to be out on the roads working and helping Americans. So I want to thank the Ford here, but the workers here for everything they do to make sure we keep America on top. Thank you.
In 1 second, we're going to open up the questions. You can ask a question for any of the leaders here, but I just want to double down on my lobby effort to get rid of the stop-start button. I hate the stop-start button in my car. It's horrible. So anyway, if you can make that happen. If you guys have any questions, we're open to taking a couple. And I think we might have some microphones just because it is loud in here. Do we have? What's the question? Yeah. Just please say who your question is for.
Dave Shepardson from Reuters. We have one question to all of you. First, to Ambassador Greer, you referenced today that Canada is going to allow 49,000 Chinese EVs into that market. Is that something you expect to address in USMCA negotiations? And can you talk more broadly about the Detroit 3 and other automakers say USMCA is crucial to the supply chain and ensuring low-cost parts for some of the vehicles that are built here? Maybe you can talk that, and then I'll ask the question to the other folks.
Sure, thank you. So with respect to the Canadian decision to allow a limited amount of Chinese EVs into their market, they put a hard cap on that, a hard quota. On the one hand, I don't expect that to disrupt American supply into Canada by any means. Canada is so dependent on the United States for their GDP. Their entire population is crowded around our border for that reason. I'll tell you one thing. If those cars are going to Canada, they're not coming here. So that's for sure. I think broadly speaking, with respect to USMCA, we're in a period of renegotiation. We're taking a very close look at it. There are certain aspects of it related to agriculture, et cetera, that some of the supply chains make sense. But when it comes to manufacturing, we want those jobs here. We understand that some of the big three, they have some operations in Mexico, some in Canada. We want to create incentives to bring as much back here. President Trump did the USMCA in the first term. It generated a lot of investment in the United States, but we want to generate even more. So we expect that there will be more U.S. content, that any new rules that we establish will create incentives to have more workers in factories like these. Thank you.
Terry Duffy and Administrator Zeldin, or maybe Senator Moreno, how long is it going to take the impact of CAFE and EPA emissions reductions to trickle down into vehicle prices? Is this about, in the short term, decontenting some of these requirements to meet those rules, or replacing certain parts or systems? How long will consumers see that $1,000 actually,
So first off, if I can make a comment on your question to a trade representative. Listen, I love Canada. Good people, nice country. Wisconsin, I live right next. They're my neighbor, but no one has ever accused Canada of making always the smartest and best decisions. And I think they'll look back at this decision and surely regret it to bring Chinese cars into their market. But again, they're a free country. Let them make those choices at their own peril.
Okay, coming out of that, because we have new information in the shooting of a well-known Ocean View realtor here in Norfolk. Now the family of Judy Boone is offering a monetary reward for any information that can help authorities find who shot her in her home on New Year's Eve. The 72-year-old woman suffered from at least one non-life-threatening gunshot while at her home in East Ocean View. This was just before midnight on New Year's Eve that this was taking place. She was hospitalized, and her attorney now saying that she was shot in her wrist and abdomen. This has been a story that is really taking on a lot of curiosity by people in the community because Boone is so well known. Again, non-life threatening, but still, they're trying to figure out what happened and who did it. March, I know we just got some new information from a press conference that happened this morning. What are some of the things that stood out to you from that?
Yeah, so we heard from the Boone family attorney. His name's Pete Decker III, and basically provided additional details about, what happened or what they say happened when on the night of the shooting. So Decker tells us that Boone was just lying on the couch watching TV when someone climbed over the sand dunes in Ocean View at her home and fired shots through the back window. Something that's interesting to note is that Decker in this press conference said they believe the shooting was random, even though previously we heard from Norfolk Commonwealth's attorney Ramin Fadahi that it may have been targeted. So, authorities were operating under that belief initially. I think there's still, because Norfolk police don't have any leads in this case, it appears, that is still something we don't know for certain. But as you mentioned, she was shot in those two areas. And then I think another interesting development we heard, Eugene, is that the two security cameras, they were working, but they had been moved. Mm-hmm. They had been turned around. So that's another element at play of why they don't have many leads in this case right now.
All right, and in terms of how she is doing right now, we're told in an update, responding well to treatment, currently in recovery. She's thanking everyone for their kind wishes, thoughtful prayers, and continued support during this time. But, certainly I can't imagine for her how terrifying that must be as well, to be in your home, particularly on a holiday in that moment, and to be shot in that. But again, she is recovering at the moment. I do want to turn now our attention still in Norfolk. Remember that scene that we had earlier? We just showed that's literally right behind us here. We just got information from Norfolk Police on what's going on there. If we can pull up those pictures that we had queued up. Remember, we told you that on Front Street, right behind here at the 13 News Now studios, we saw police tape and then also a forensic unit show up to a field here on Front Street. Now police are saying that they are investigating what they are calling an undetermined death. So around 9:45 this morning, they got a call about an unresponsive person. When they arrived, first responders that is, they pronounced a man dead. So a man was dead there in this general area. You're looking at pictures at the moment. Again, it is being investigated right now as an undetermined death. They're not sharing any more information than that. The medical examiner is going to look at the body, you can assume, and then make an official manner and cause of death. And I'm sure that will then inform police on how they should look at this particular investigation, if it needs to change any way or the other. But we first wanted to make sure we talked about it because we saw that forensic unit and we saw the crime tape there. And obviously it being right behind our studio here, we happened to see it pretty early. But that information just coming in that there was a man who was found dead on Front Street, and right now it's being investigated as an undetermined death. That coming from the Norfolk Police Department. So I know when you were talking about Judy Boone, that came up, and so just wanted to get into that in the moment. Okay. Two things. I'm looking at a few different things that are happening right now, just determining where we will go. We're still waiting here at 11:30 to see if the Venezuela opposition leader will come up to the podium. But here's one thing we might be able to go to right now, Sarah. If you look at News 1 Channel 4, you all remember several weeks ago, NASCAR great Greg Biffle and his family were in an airplane traveling in North Carolina when something went wrong, and then they crashed, killing all those who were on board. We were here on the stream. We took that live prior to us knowing exactly what happened all the way through. Devastating for so many people, not just in the NASCAR community, but beyond. Well, right now there is a funeral service that is taking place in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll at least show you at the moment. This is a memorial for Greg Biffle and his family happening right now. That is underway. And it just so happens, as soon as I mention that, of course, we have the Venezuelan opposition leader who walks up to the stage. Okay, so we're going to monitor both. That funeral service is just getting underway, so we're going to keep our eyes on it, and we'll come back to it. But right now, what I do want to do, let's go and see if we can listen in to Maria Corina Machado, just off the heels of her meeting with President Donald Trump just yesterday. And as she speaks right now, I do believe she is in Washington, D.C. So let's listen to her words.
2026, a new milestone was achieved, and we are definitely now into the first steps of a true transition to democracy that will have not only immense impact in the lives of all Venezuelans, those who stayed in our country, those who have been forced to flee around the world, but that will have immense impact in the region, in our hemisphere, and I will say even further in the whole world. Because what we have proven is that a people determined to be free, even without resources, without money, without free press supporting, even facing the most cruel tyranny, can prevail, because the force of conviction and the force of love is the strongest of all. I am very proud to be part of these generations of Venezuelans. Most of them have never known what it means to live in freedom or what it means to be part of a democratic society, but they have risked their lives, their loved ones, everything they have, because they share that dream to live in a free country. It's all about human dignity. It's all about justice. It's all about love. And it's love for our children, love for our country, and love for freedom that has brought us here. Now we face a very complex and delicate process. And as Venezuelans, we are absolutely grateful to President Trump, his team, his administration, and the people of the United States, because it took a lot of courage to do what he did. And he did it, yes, on behalf of the American people, but also because he cares for the people of Venezuela. And he told me that yesterday. And I think that was the most important message I can bring back to my country. Tell the Venezuelan people that the American people and the President of the United States truly cares for the life, the well-being, and the future. I'm certainly talking about our political prisoners and all those who have been persecuted, those who are all today in exile. But I'm also talking about those children that are growing without their mothers because they had to flee to send food back, that are growing without education because public schooling in Venezuela works 2 days a week because teachers earn $1 a day and they need to get other jobs in order to eat, that are growing without health and food. And we have the generation that is suffering the highest levels of malnutrition in a century. That's our children right now. And it is because of them. It's because of saving lives that we're doing what we're doing right now. And that's why we're going to win. And the only thing I want to assure the Venezuelan people is that Venezuela is going to be free, and that's going to be achieved with the support of the people of the United States and the President, Donald Trump of the United States. So I'm very grateful to be here. We're facing challenging times ahead. We are prepared to do what it takes as a legitimate government. Edmundo González Urrutia and I have been in communication permanently all these days, and we feel not only with a mandate from the Venezuelan people, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I convey to the President of the United States, but also a huge task in front of us to prepare with other teams around the world and in Venezuela to take over government when the right time arrives. So thank you very much, and I'm more than willing to hear your questions now. So I believe there is a procedure that has been designed, so because we thought there might be some interest today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you, Ms. Machado. I'm gonna start off with a question, and then we're gonna open it up to the press. My question to you, Ms. Machado, is you know the Venezuelan people more than anyone, and that's apparent from the very. You know the Venezuelan people more than anyone, and that's apparent from the very strong support that they've shown for you time and time again. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about, I mean, as you know, your country has been destroyed by socialism, Cuba, Russia, and Iran looting your nation, your wealth. Do you see, and the primary victim of this has been the Venezuelan people, do you see a future in which, that at all possible, where a free and fair election and return to democracy in Venezuela restores anything but a strong, staunched U.S. ally and a country that leaves behind the shackles of socialism?
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me? I'm hearing like an echo here. Yeah.
We hear you.
It's fine? Okay. Well, I'm very glad. No, there's a problem with an echo, right?
Yeah. Different microphone. Did you answer at the podium? Yes.
No, please. So comfortable sitting down. You want me to stand up? You prefer that I stand up? No? That's better now? Okay. Look, I'm very glad we start with this issue because I understand that there are many concerns regarding the transition in Venezuela and compared to previous events in all parts of the world. And I always insist in the difference between what is today compared to Middle East countries that went through change in governments or regimes. We're talking about a society that is perhaps the most cohesive in the region. I would dare to say even in the world. I ask you to think any other society in which 90% of the population wants the same. Not only that they reject the actual regime, but we want the same. There are not religious tensions within the Venezuelan society, or racial, or regional, or political, or social. I mean, there was one longing that brought Venezuelans together, and that was, we want our children back home. And it was that demand that I heard all around Venezuela in 2023, when we were moving forward to the primary process, that made me realize how powerful it was to unite a country, to tear down the barriers that the regime had built to divide us, you know, between rich and poor, black and white, left and right, military and civilians. And we brought a country back together. That's why I always said, you know what, Maduro's going to go. We're going to get rid of him one day or the other. What's important is the country that's coming afterwards. And it's a country based on shared values. We want to live with dignity. We want to live with the result of our work, our effort, a society based in merit, and not if you know the chavista who is in certain place at certain time. Women do not want handouts. They don't want to live in give their children a box of food that has a high cost, because then you have to lower your head and repeat what the regime wants you to say or dress as they expect you to dress. They want to live with their job well done. That's dignity. And that's what Venezuela deserves and wants today. And that's what we represent. So, of course, the result of this hard process will be a society based on these values. A society that is profoundly pro-America. And I want to insist on this. Delcy Rodriguez, yes, she's a communist. She is the main ally and representation of the Russian regime, the Chinese and the Iranians. But that's not the Venezuelan people, and that's not the armed forces as well. So I am profoundly, profoundly confident that we will have an orderly transition. This is a complex phase we are right now. Some of the dirty work is being done by them. But then the result of a stable transition will be a proud Venezuela who is going to be the best ally the United States has ever had in the Americas.
We're going to have a person come up and.
Sorry for that. I'm gonna leave.
Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you very much for coming. I realize there's a lot of interest. We're going to try to get to every question. I'm going to go through a list. There's outlets that have more than one reporter accredited, so I would like to please ask you to raise your hand so we can get one of our kind staff to bring the microphone to you as I call you out. Julio Vaqueiro from Telemundo, please.
Hola, Julio.
Hola, María Corina. Qué gusto verte aquí en Washington, D.C. El presidente Donald Trump, su gobierno, está hablando y trabajando con Delcy Rodríguez, así lo han dicho ellos. Usted le dio el Premio Nobel de la Paz al presidente Trump en su encuentro ayer. ¿Qué le dio el presidente a usted? ¿Un reconocimiento de su legitimidad como opositora con el mandato de encabezar esta transición en Venezuela?
Gracias, Julio. Yo no vine a buscar nada para mí. Vengo aquí en representación del pueblo de Venezuela, que eligió a Edmundo González Urrutia como presidente electo. ¿A que lo baje? Oh, los teléfonos, ok. Entonces, repito, yo vine en representación del pueblo de Venezuela, que nos dio un mandato. Primero el 22 de octubre del 2023. Ay, no. Ya va, chicos, un minuto. Vamos a ¿se escucha bien o no?
Cambiamos.
Ya, vamos a cambiarlo. Ok, ahora está mejor. ¿Ahora sí? Ok, voy a repetir la pregunta la respuesta a la pregunta de Julio. Les decía, yo vine a reunirme con el presidente de los Estados Unidos en representación del pueblo de Venezuela, que nos dio un mandato. El 22 de octubre del 2023, cuando yo recibí más del 92% de los votos en las primarias, y el 28 de julio de 2024, cuando Edmundo González Urrutia, en las condiciones...
Okay, you were hearing their press conference, speech, and then questions now coming from reporters Maria Corina Machado, their Venezuelan opposition leader. But now we're going to go back. I told you we were going to monitor it. The funeral services for NASCAR great Greg Biffle, family members, and others who were killed in that fiery plane crash just a few weeks ago. That is underway right now in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I think for the last few minutes here, we can listen in to the words that are being shared about him, about his loved ones, and all those aboard.
And your kids are saying, Daddy, I need, I want to do this or do that. Greg told me, just stop. Take 5-10 minutes. They really don't need that much time. Their attention spans are so short. But if you take that time, it really fulfills their day. And I use it religiously with my kids. It really works well, and I encourage you guys to all try it. All right, Christina, winner of the 2025 Mom Prix. Come on, make some noise for my girl. Can I get a napkin, Maddie? Hold on. All right. Sorry, I'm a mess. I wish I rehearsed this a little better. Thought it'd go a little smoother. All right, Christina, winner of the Mom Prix. She was truly a special woman. She was smart, extremely smart, very sharp, didn't forget anything, very tuned into social media and technology, which is the only, and I repeat, only reason Greg had any presence online in these recent years. So everything you guys got to see with me and just Greg on his own, whatever, it's because of Christina making that happen. I mean, that girl was his lifeline to the internet. So although Greg was cool, none of you guys would have known it if it wasn't for Christina, okay? So I got to give her some credit there. We'd be at dinner and she'd be selling a house or booking someone a trip or renting one of her properties. She was extremely impressive with how easily she did stuff. All right, let me find out here where we're at. All right. Christina was very well organized, while Biff ran a rather loose program, you could say. They were so different, and maybe that's why they were perfect for each other. Lastly, she was a great mother. She brought Ryder to so many of our events and kept him close to the action, but not too close. She was very confident in how she parented as well, which was always inspiring to Maddie and I when we're struggling with our little ones. Also, my heart goes out to the family and friends of Dennis and Jack Dutton. Being a pilot, I know everyone worries about us, and that's the last call you want to get for two pilots there. All right. Last but not least, we're going to talk about the Biff. Boy, did I love this guy. My friends and I here, we really looked up to him. It's kind of funny. There's like 10 or 15 of us in my friend group. We're all in our 30s. And, but then we have, I can't count out Mr. Sam. We got Mr. Sam, he's 80. But then we have Biff, who's 25 years older than all of us. And, man, he was exactly like us, though. 20 years older than us, exactly like us to a T. Fit into our group so well. We all loved hanging out with Greg so much. I can't tell you how much we loved it. But from what I've been told, Greg was not always this way. He was not always this carefree, hilarious guy you saw in the videos. He was a little different, right? Apparently, in his young days, he was a bit of a troublemaker. As you heard some of the stories, did a burnout in front of the high school front doors, got expelled, and also had his car impounded by his father, which, I could see how that could happen easily. Then later in life, I guess Greg was very serious about his race program. Like, he lived, breathed, and solely focused on racing cars. And he was just totally locked in on motorsports. So I'm proud to say that I was able to meet Greg at the perfect time. It turns out, I think Greg might have been born to be a YouTuber. He just didn't realize it until he was 54. And at this point in his life, Greg had his priorities pretty dialed in, I would say, as an outlooker, looking out from the outside in. And I don't want to speak for him, but I'm pretty sure these are his priorities in life. And you can cheer for the order if you think it's right, okay? Number 1, God. There you go. Number 2, family. That's a good one, right? Number 3, helping other humans. Number 4, Facebook Marketplace. Anybody? There we go. Number 5, Glamis, sand dunes. Number 6, turning left. Love that. And number 7, being an American badass. Those were Greg's priorities, I think. And I'm sorry, Greg, if I spoke for you and I missed one, but I thought long and hard about his favorite things. That seemed to be them. Anyway, what I'm saying at this point is Greg's life, for Greg's life, he had met the love of his life, Christina. He had 2 beautiful kids. He had worked very hard and set himself up well, and now is spending his time freely. And my friends and I were lucky enough to be around for this. So I'm going to use the rest of my time to share some stories. All right, let's see here. All right, I'm sorry to start with this one, Greg, if you're watching down on us right now, brother. And where's Christina's girlfriends at? Right here. I'm going to watch you guys when I say this. Greg always forgot Christina's drink. You guys know about this? I mean, every single time we went to like a bar or anything, it was just hysterical. Like he would just grab a drink. Shoot, he'd grab me one, but he forgot Christina's drink, and Christina was hilariously responding to him every time, just on him about it. It was a recurring thing. I remember the first time Christina said it, she goes, "He always forgets my drink." I'm like, oh, every girl says that about their husband. But Greg forgot it every time. All right, one of my favorite stories is Greg and I were racing $5,000 RVs that we had bought. And this is actually a video on the internet. Greg got us access to a dirt oval for our RVs. And he took off on me, and I was trying my hardest to chase him down. It's like lap 4 or 5. But what I didn't know is that on the second lap, actually the first lap, Greg's RV curtain had closed in front of him. And so he's looking through this like 2-inch gap in his curtains. You know the RV curtains when you go to sleep and they cover the whole window of a Class A? He's racing me and he can't reach the curtains. So I'm trying my hardest to catch him. He can't even see. And I didn't even know that till the race ended, but it was so funny. All right, the next one is also from the cheap RV trip, and this has been a secret until today. Many of you who watch the channel have probably wondered about this. Okay, so we stopped in a really nice RV park in Georgia. I mean, really nice. It was about 11 p.m. when we got settled in, so we decided to hit the pool. And they had this beautiful pool area. This park was brand new. Beautiful pool area. And they had a bad to the bone, 3-story tall water slide. This was a sweet setup. Well, anyways, it's all shut down because it's 11 p.m. So Greg's like, well, let's just go up them. It just rained, so the slides are lubricated. We'll go down them. And I was like, okay. So we go down them one time, and then we're like, all right, we can probably get one more with the amount of water left on the slides. We go back up, and like a tsunami, water comes pouring out of the top of the water slides. My boy Jack Stand here, I don't know where he's at, had turned on the water slides. And so you got to understand, these are like massive industrial pumps that he found the activation button for. And it was so loud. I mean, it's 11 p.m., right? So this water is roaring down these slides. They're huge. And Greg and I are like riding the slides, right? We're going down, running back up. It was like we were 10 years old. And probably on our 3rd or 4th ride down the slide. I have this on video, by the way. Never released. Might have to release it now. The employees come running into the pool area. Hey! We're like, oh. we grab our stuff. We know we're about to get in some serious trouble. And I'm like, we got Biff and Mr. Sam with us, you know. We totally shouldn't be doing this. We were ready to take a chewing, rightfully so. As the guy starts to yell at us, which I'm not saying he wasn't out of place to yell at us, Greg claims in front of the rest of us, there's about 7 of us, he goes, I was just using the shower. And he literally picks up our cooler of beer, throws his towel over his shoulder, and walks away. Like, am I telling this with perfect accuracy? And the guy never once claimed his association with us. The guy didn't go, hold on, buddy. Greg was gone. I watched him walk off into the darkness. I'm like, damn. We got back to the RV. He's completely bone dry, wearing, normal clothes. Looks like nothing ever happened. Like, I was like, bro, you left us. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. One time I don't know how much time I have. I'm just going to keep going for a few more. Sorry, folks. One time I made a bet with Greg that if I won, he could not wear his sleeves for a month. And he accepted the bet, and I won the bet. And he literally went on a ski trip with his family, and there's photos of him on the slopes with no sleeves. He fulfilled the bet perfectly. And one time we were in Las Vegas, and it was still the 1 month where he couldn't wear sleeves, and we're down on the strip, and we would usually let him come out of his room with his sleeves on, and then we'd rip them off as part of some sort of weird ceremonial thing we would do. Well, this time we were a couple drinks in. There's also a video of this, and I said, Biff, we got to get those sleeves off. He's wearing a nice dress shirt. And I remember I grabbed this sleeve, and I was also a little tuned up.
Okay, you were just listening there, a live look there at the memorial services for NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his family and those who died in that horrific plane crash just weeks ago. We covered it right here on 13 News Now and Live Impact News. The words that are shared about him, some in jest and fun, but obviously in sincerity as well. That's all that we have here for Live Impact News. Marta, thank you so much for sticking with and joining us throughout the entirety of today's stream. It was awesome having you in here, and I know you're going to be sitting in this seat over the next few weeks as well. Producer Sarah Calloway, as always. Thank you, too, for joining us. Remember, you can catch us here on 13 News Now Plus if you're watching us live on YouTube. Up next, you're going to have 13 News Now at noon with Ashley Smith and much more on some of the breaking stories that we brought you through the stream and other things happening across Hampton Roads. We'll be right back here again at 1 o'clock. Until then, we'll see you then.